Nobody prepared you for this. Not your parents. Not your teachers. Not a single person who watched you grow up ever pulled you aside and said, "Listen, the way your brain works is going to make normal life feel like a war you never signed up for." You figured it out on your own. Slowly. Painfully. Through years of sitting in rooms full of people and feeling completely invisible. Through conversations that went nowhere. Through relationships that looked fine from the outside but felt hollow on the inside. Through jobs that paid the bills but quietly killed something in you every single day. You started noticing the pattern. Social situations that everyone else seemed to breeze through left you exhausted for days. People called you deep and intense, like those were polite ways of saying something was wrong with you. You wanted real conversations, the kind that actually meant something, and instead got a world obsessed with small talk, surface impressions, and performing happiness for strangers on the internet. And the hardest part? You couldn't explain it. Not in a way anyone would actually understand. Because from the outside you looked fine. More than fine sometimes. Smart. Capable. Put together. Nobody could see the weight you were carrying just to function in a world that felt fundamentally designed for someone else. If you're an INTJ or INFJ man, this is your story. And it's about time someone told it straight. What even is an INTJ or INFJ man? Before anything else, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing. The Myers-Briggs type indicator sorts people into 16 personality types using 4 dimensions. 2 of those types, INTJ and INFJ, share a lot of core DNA, and both of them tend to produce men who feel like they're living slightly outside the mainstream of human experience. The INTJ, often called the architect, is strategic, analytical, fiercely independent, and has exactly zero patience for stupidity or small talk. He thinks in systems. He plans years ahead. He has high standards for everything, including himself, and he is completely comfortable being alone in a way that baffles most people. The INFJ, statistically the rarest personality type on Earth, is empathetic, visionary, intensely private, and carries an emotional depth that most people never get to see. He feels things strongly. He reads people with frightening accuracy. He wants to do something that actually matters with his life, and he won't settle for anything less. Both types are deeply introverted, highly intuitive, and live rich inner lives that the outside world rarely gets access to. The main difference is the lens. The INTJ processes reality through logic and structure, while the INFJ processes it through emotion and meaning. Many men relate to both, and some shift between the two depending on life circumstances. What they share most is this: the world wasn't built for them. And being a man makes that even harder. The hidden tax of being this kind of man. Here's what nobody talks about. Being an INTJ or INFJ is difficult for anyone. But being a man with these traits comes with an extra layer of friction that is genuinely brutal. Society has a very specific script for men. Be confident. Be social. Be tough. Don't overthink. Don't feel too much. Don't need too much space. Go out, network, make friends easily, talk loudly, take up room. The INTJ or INFJ man doesn't naturally do any of that, and when he forces himself to, it costs him enormously. He comes home from a party feeling hollowed out. He sits through a work meeting wondering why he's the only one who can see how pointless this all is. He watches other men form easy friendships over nothing in particular and wonders what he's missing. He's not missing anything. He's just paying a tax that other men don't have to pay. And it adds up. Struggle number 1. The loneliness that doesn't have a name. This one starts young. As a kid, maybe you preferred books over playgrounds. Maybe you had one close friend instead of a pack. Maybe adults called you old soul, which sounded nice but secretly made you feel like an alien wearing a human costume. As you get older, the loneliness gets more precise. It's not that you can't be around people. You can. You can be charming, even magnetic when you choose to be. But at some point, you notice that almost no one around you wants to talk about anything that actually matters. You're surrounded by conversations about nothing. Sports results, weekend plans, gossip about people you barely know, and you're starving. I can spend an entire evening with people and feel more alone than when I was by myself. That's the INTJ/INFJ experience down to the bone. Surface level connection feels like junk food. It fills the time but leaves you empty. You want ideas. You want honesty. You want someone to tell you what they actually believe, not what sounds acceptable in polite company. And finding people who operate at that level is genuinely, frustratingly rare. For men specifically, this is worse. Male social culture tends to be activity-based and emotionally shallow. Men bond by doing things, watching games, lifting weights, having drinks. Deep conversation between men is still considered unusual in most social circles. So the INTJ/INFJ man ends up choosing between fake connection and no connection. Most of the time he chooses no connection. And then the loneliness compounds itself. Struggle number 2. Your depth is treated like a defect. This one cuts differently depending on your type, but both types feel it. The INFJ man feels everything at high volume. He walks into a room and immediately picks up on who's tense, who's performing, who's hiding something. He processes emotional information constantly, automatically, without being able to turn it off. He cares, not in a performative way but in a real, deep, almost inconvenient way, about the people in his life and about the world at large. Now take that man and drop him into a culture that tells him emotions are weakness. That real men don't feel this much. That sensitivity is something to outgrow. That caring too deeply about things is embarrassing. What happens? He learns to hide it. He builds a wall, not because he wants to, but because showing his real interior got him burned enough times that it became self-preservation. He becomes an expert at performing fine. He answers, "I'm good," when he's actually processing something enormous. He laughs at the right moments and keeps everything real locked behind a door that very few people ever get to open. The INTJ man has a different but equally painful version of this. He doesn't lead with emotion, he leads with logic. But he has emotions. He has an interior life that is deep and complex and intense. He just doesn't emote visibly, and because of that, people read him as cold, as robotic, as someone who doesn't care. People think nothing gets to me. The truth is almost everything gets to me. I just don't perform it. Both types end up in the same trap. They feel too much to be comfortable with the emotional shallowness around them, but they show too little for anyone to realize it. They're drowning quietly while everyone assumes they're fine. Struggle number 3. Love is harder to find than it should be. Let's be honest, because a lot of INTJ and INFJ men suffer in silence about this and never say it out loud. Dating is hard for everyone. But for these men, the specific flavor of hard is its own particular kind of exhausting. The standards aren't arrogant, they're just real. The INTJ man needs someone sharp, honest, and intellectually alive. The INFJ man needs someone he can actually connect with at a level that goes beneath small talk and surface charm. Both of them can smell inauthenticity from across a room and want absolutely nothing to do with it. This makes modern dating culture feel like a bad joke. Swiping apps. Performing a version of yourself designed to impress. First date small talk that goes nowhere. Playing games to seem less interested than you are. All of it feels dishonest, hollow, and like an enormous waste of time. These men don't want to date around. They want to find the one real thing and build something meaningful. But to get there, they have to survive a process that is completely at odds with everything they value. Then there's the communication gap that shows up once they're actually in a relationship. INTJs and INFJs both process internally. They don't think out loud. They go quiet when they're overwhelmed, not because they're pulling away but because that's how they work through things. To a partner who doesn't understand this, the silence feels like rejection. It feels like distance. It creates problems that wouldn't exist if the internal wiring were visible. I've had partners think I was angry with them when I was actually just thinking. The silence meant I was present. They read it as me being gone. And then there's the deepest issue, being truly, fully understood by another person. Most INTJ and INFJ men can count the people who actually get them on maybe one hand. Finding a romantic partner who is also that person, someone who sees through the armor and still wants to stay, is rare. When it doesn't happen, the loneliness from struggle number 1 doubles. Struggle number 4. The working world is a bad fit. Open plan offices. Mandatory team bonding. Performance reviews based on how enthusiastically you speak up in meetings. Corporate politics. Networking events where you're expected to smile and collect business cards and pretend to find strangers fascinating. The constant pressure to be visible, vocal, and a team player. None of this was designed with the INTJ or INFJ man in mind. And spending 40+ hours a week in an environment that drains you at a structural level is not a small problem. It's a quality of life crisis that most people around you won't even recognize as a valid complaint. These men are often extraordinarily capable. They think deeply, solve problems that others can't frame properly, see the real issue underneath the surface issue, and produce work that speaks for itself. But what they need to actually do that, autonomy, quiet, meaningful work, and the freedom to operate without constant interruption, is rarely what workplaces provide. A manager once told me I needed to show more energy in meetings. I had already solved the problem they were meeting about. The INTJ man chafes against pointless hierarchy. If a rule makes sense, he'll follow it. If it exists purely because of tradition, he will quietly, or loudly, question it. He sees inefficiency everywhere and has the solutions ready, which doesn't always make him easy to manage. He gets labeled difficult when really he's just direct and intolerant of waste. The INFJ man's struggle is different but just as real. He absorbs workplace energy like a sponge. A toxic environment doesn't just frustrate him, it physically depletes him. He also needs his work to mean something. Not in a vague, make a difference way, but in a real, tangible way that he can feel. Doing work that feels pointless doesn't just bore the INFJ man, it hollows him out from the inside. Both types frequently spend years in the wrong jobs, grinding through careers that technically function but feel like slow suffocation. Most eventually find their way to independence or highly specialized roles where they can operate on their own terms, but the road to get there is long and hard. Struggle number 5. Being misread is a lifetime sentence. This is the thread that runs through every other struggle. The INTJ and INFJ man carries a version of himself that the world almost never fully sees, and the gap between who he actually is and how he is perceived is a constant, grinding source of pain. The INTJ man gets read as arrogant, cold, dismissive, condescending. People assume he thinks he's better than everyone because he doesn't perform warmth, doesn't laugh at things that aren't funny, and doesn't pretend to agree when he disagrees. In reality, he's just honest. He doesn't do social performance. To people used to politeness and white lies, this looks like contempt. It isn't. It's just clarity. The INFJ man gets read as mysterious and aloof. People call him intense like it's an insult. He becomes everyone's go-to person when life gets hard, the friend you call at 2 a.m. with a real problem, but somehow rarely gets included in the casual stuff. He's deeply valued and quietly isolated at the same time. Everyone wants access to his depth. Very few people know how to just be with him. I'm the person people call when their life falls apart. I'm also somehow never on the guest list for the easy, fun stuff. The worst part isn't being misread by strangers or coworkers. It's being misread by the people who have known you for years. Family who still doesn't understand why you need to be alone sometimes. Old friends who think your quietness means something is wrong. Partners who interpret your internal processing as emotional unavailability. People who love you but are working from an incomplete picture of who you are and don't know it. That's the loneliest version of the whole thing. Not being unknown to strangers. Being unknown to people who are certain they know you. What actually helps? Understanding the problem is only useful if it points somewhere. Here's what genuinely tends to move the needle, not magic fixes but real directions. Find your 2 or 3 people. Depth beats quantity every time. One person who actually sees you is worth 100 acquaintances. It may take a long time to find them. It's worth every bit of that time. Stop spending energy performing. The cost of pretending to be someone you're not is unsustainable. Build your life, your work, your social circle, your daily structure around how you actually function. It's not selfish. It's necessary. Define what meaningful actually means for you personally. Both types need purpose, but purpose is different for everyone. Get specific. Then protect it fiercely. Say what you need out loud. The people who care about you are not mind readers. They can't know what they can't see. Telling someone how you work, really work, is uncomfortable and worth it every time. Loosen your grip on the misreading. Most of it isn't malice. It's just unfamiliarity. You're rare. Rare things confuse people. You can't control how you're perceived. You can only control whether you know who you are. The bottom line. Being an INTJ or INFJ man in the modern world is genuinely, specifically hard. The loneliness is real. The misunderstanding is real. The exhaustion of navigating a world that wasn't designed for your wiring is real. None of it is in your head and none of it means something is wrong with you. But here's the other side of that same coin. The traits that make life hard are the same traits that make these men remarkable. The depth, the precision, the ability to see clearly when others can't, the capacity for a kind of love and loyalty that most people never experience. The goal was never to become easier for the world to understand. The goal is to build a life that's worth living as exactly who you are. That's the whole thing. That's all of it.